today we got Reb Massel.
Not to mention that we don't have a loneliness epidemic. We have a loser epidemic. Absolutely. Y'all who are waking up, these men who are waking up in the morning with their mouth taped shut, should keep that there. Start there.
I mean, it's just a man-hating post, of course. Now, do I fully disagree with her? Probably not. There definitely is a lot of losers out there. But here's the thing about this. I don't think the losers that she's referring to are the actual losers a lot of the time. But we'll get into that in a little bit, probably.
Loneliness epidemic is funny because at no time.
Now, I hate being this guy. Okay, I hate it, but I will address it, obviously. I just find it funny how she's doing the exact thing that girls complain so much about. It's just more of blaming guys, blaming guys. They're losers, they're losers. It's funny that it's happening. I just find that a little bit interesting to point out. In reality, let's just be blunt about it. Guys are very obviously disposable in society. I don't like it. You don't have to like it, but this is just the objective truth. This is how the world views men until they reach a certain point. I doubt it's ever going to change too, because we live in this era where cancel culture is so prevalent, yet girls can come online and say whatever they want about guys, about how it's funny, even though it really isn't that funny, right? She's never going to get canceled for this. Now, if I came out and said the exact same thing, but about women, there would be some problems. I'd probably be canceled for it. So anyways, I find that funny, that obvious double standard that we can't comment on. And if we comment on that double standard, automatically you get shamed. You're an incel, you're this or that, whatever it is, right? Anyways, I don't even know if I can even say incel anymore at this point.
Do the cat ladies ever get worried that they're going to die alone? They're not going to die alone. They're not even going to die alone just with their cats. I know for a fact that if I ever was in a hospice situation, something horrible happened to me, I couldn't advocate for myself, right? Like a lot of people end up in those situations and all they want and need is someone to be there. I got people for miles that would pull up.
It's so funny that she's saying that. And what she doesn't fundamentally understand is that somebody has to keep up these institutions. I just find it funny how we've created this entire system that's pretty robust to the point that we can delude ourselves into thinking that nobody has to maintain these systems. It's become such an entitlement, is my point. And I'm a little bit worried about that, because if everybody just believes that this is always going to be there, no one's going to want to maintain it, because why would they maintain something that isn't respected or appreciated? Of course, we have to ask the question, where is the financing for these institutions coming from? I'm not going to get too deep on this topic. I'll let you guys connect the dots further from this point, but I do need to point out this obvious entitlement that's blatantly delusional. Let's keep going.
I have family members. I have my sister. I have friends. I have a network of relationships. Never have I ever considered in my mind thinking, oh, if I do end up not marrying someone or not spending my life with someone, has it ever even crossed my mind that I'm going to be lonely? Never once. The difference isn't that,
Because you live in a state of hyperabundance. You're in such a state of abundance, in fact, that you don't even understand how privileged of a life you really live. Now, I hate using the privilege term because oftentimes that term is weaponized against people to make them feel bad for having something. So it's not that I'm trying to shame her for having it. My biggest issue here is that she's completely blind to the reality as to why she has that abundance in the first place. Somewhere, at some point, men have made it possible. So in this situation, I find it very funny because she's essentially claiming that she doesn't need a man. That's what this whole spiel is all about. It's just another version of I don't need a man. Yet the very systems that she's saying are there, that are in place for her to hide behind, those systems were created by men. If men decided to stop, those systems would cease to exist. Then she couldn't hide behind the fantasy that she doesn't need a man. The instant we go back to a survival world, if we ever do, which in some way I hope we don't, this narrative will change immediately. I truly believe a lot of people don't understand this fundamental reality. Men obviously paved the way to create the world so that it's abundant enough so you can have those options, and now you're turning around and essentially biting the hand that fed you. How can you possibly blame men for being annoyed? How can you possibly say it's a loser epidemic when it's men, in fact, that made it possible for you to even do what you're doing right now? It just doesn't make any sense, and it's obviously a false narrative. Anyways. Let's keep going.
Oh, women think about this and they establish relationships. It's that we care about the relationships in our life that aren't romantic. Think about that. We don't treat our friendships,
You can also tell by her expressions, the way she talks, that she's entirely ego possessed. And no matter what fact you bring to the table, no matter what perspective you come with, you will always be met with a massive, massive resistance because her interest isn't the truth. Her interest is protecting a narrative so that she can live with herself, given the decisions that she's made, given the fact that she's blaming men for all of her problems, and now she's never going to change that. It's just easier that way. Taking responsibility is one of the hardest things you can possibly do. Of all the nonsense she's already said in this video, that's probably that little shred of truth that does exist in her words. There are a lot of guys right now, the loser epidemic, a lot of guys that just simply don't want to take responsibility, and of course they're helping contribute to the problem. Let's keep going.
families, our nieces, nephews, anyone, even like coworkers to a certain extent when you get close with them, like they're just there as placeholders until you find a marriage. Male loneliness epidemic will be solved if y'all just make friends and keep them, or have friends that aren't just shallow and superficial and you can't even call on the phone when you're having a bad day. Wouldn't even pull up to your hospital.
You see the amount of feminine projection that's going on here? This is what I'm constantly saying, right? They're coming on the internet and they're pretending like they have the catch-all solution. All they're doing is just feminine projecting onto men. Why don't you just be like me? Be like a woman. Express your emotions. That'll solve all your problems. Here's the main issue though. Guys don't get the same satisfaction from these things as women do, but they just simply can't understand this. They struggle so hard to understand that men operate very differently from women. Of course, when you say they operate differently, you already know what the response is. Oh, well, then you're probably just defective. Even this video right here is a perfect example as to why guys are sick and tired of listening to women lecturing them about something that they clearly have no idea about. It's pretty much identical to having toxic parents. You go to your parents, you try to tell them the truth about how you feel, they tell you your feelings are stupid and it doesn't make any sense, so then you learn to never talk about your feelings because you know that they'll never understand anyways. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, if I'm being honest. So you wonder why guys have to just keep it to themselves, and the strongest ones, the ones that are psychologically the strongest, they can survive in these types of conditions. Guys that are emotionally a little bit weaker, psychologically not as robust, they're going to have a lot of problems in this type of world because the world isn't there to save them, protect them, unless, of course, you buy into their narrative and do things their way. In their world, these are the perfect conditions, but in your world as a man, you want autonomy. You want to be able to feel that you have some semblance of control over your life. Signing a lifetime contract to endless responsibility with no return is not something that any man on earth willingly wants to do unless he buys into a false narrative. Only the Peter Pans of society will consider entertaining this, and there's a lot of those. White knights are a perfect example of this. They have fully bought into the idea that men are sacrificial. They fundamentally believe that men must put down their lives for everybody else, for the collective. Anyway, let's keep going.
Room for a week after you got there, and when they did, they'd act annoyed about it and awkward, and they wouldn't know what to say to you. Come on now. Y'all are trash.
I mean, what more can you say? Just another one of thousands of ego-ridden women that think they have the golden ticket. They think they have all the answers in the world, and really they're just another shining example of exactly why the male loneliness epidemic exists in the first place. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Don't forget to check my links in the description below.